Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, coming to you in a rather weird week, which has been a week of mourning for the entire UK because of the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. My name is Tosin. I am the host, joining in the middle of the country in Birmingham somewhere, away from all the processions and from the people queuing all night to go see the Queen lying in state rather. And joining me from the Isle of Wight is Sharon Bolin.
Hello.
And for those of you who might see this thing on video, you might see that Sharon has got a little tribute in the form of a Paddington bear who is joining us here on the show tonight. And also joining me on the Isle of Wight is Shaun Harris. Yeah. Yes. I think this has been one of those weeks where you say, what have you been watching on TV? And I think most of it would just have been really pretty much the Queen, because that has dominated the airwaves. So I think you guys. Well, Shaun, I don't know about you guys, but I've found that there's been so much stuff that sometimes I've needed a bit of a respite from it and to just go do something else. And Shaun, you have done your usual and gone to find your respite in the cinema.
I have, yes, I have. And I've started to watch a few series, but I haven't, like our thing is you've got to have seen the whole lot. So
yeah, our rule on this show is that if you're going to bring a series to the show, you have to watch the entire series, because if you're going to compare streaming platforms to cinema, it's only fair if you do it with a completed story. Yes. So you started a couple of things, but you haven't finished them. I've got a couple of things started as well in that regard. And Sharon, how about you?
I've done the opposite. I haven't watched anything. I found we've been watching a lot of this because I've had the week off work, which is good in some ways, but in other ways it means that you put the television on and then you just can't move away from it, because it's there all day. So a few times we have consciously turned the television off, and then I have gone and read I've just gone and read somewhere because to decompress a little bit, because it just becomes a little bit overwhelming. So I haven't watched anything at all. I know Shaun invited me to go to the cinema one evening, but we had been out that day and we were just literally just worn out. So it was like, no, I can't. I've been reading rather than watching anything at all.
Yeah. All right, cool. So in that case, we're going to see what we can do. We have 4 things in the cinema this week. Some of them we've held over from other weeks, because as we've been saying, there have been weeks where Shaun was just saying that we only had stuff to watch on streaming. We haven't had anything to watch in cinema. Then over the last 2 weeks, all of a sudden, there's been all this glut of independent movies that just came, including a movie that Shaun saw this week that came out of nowhere.
Totally.
Yeah, honestly, this thing was the cinematic equivalent of a hit and run, quite frankly. And it's a film that Shaun has mentioned the title. I haven't even Googled it yet to see, okay, what is this film about? I don't even know anything like that. But we'll come on to that. But let us kick off in cinema as we usually do. And this week we're going to kick off with a film that has been waiting patiently, probably like some of the characters in this film, waiting patiently for its moment in the time, waiting patiently for the time when it has its comeuppance. And that is Mr. Malcolm's List, a film that we have bumped twice and pushed off. And finally, we get to talk about it. I think it's actually still in cinemas in some places. So, Sharon, you have been waiting as patiently as the characters on Mr. Malcolm's List. Please tell us about this film if you can remember it.
Yeah, this is a cinema release. Based on a book that I haven't read, but it is classed as a Regency romance. Because there's different, for those people who don't watch or read or watch historical dramas, there are subgenres within genres. And if anyone has read any historical fiction, Regency fiction has got basically its own bookcase, not just a shelf on it, it's got its own bookcase. And within that, there are loads of subcategories. And so this comes into, it's like a traditional Regency, whereas it's like not saucy like Bridgerton is, but it has got quite a modern feel to it. So you call it a Regency romance rather than a Regency historical or traditional Regency, because of the fact that it uses modern sensibilities, but in a historic setting. And so
So, Sean, I was just gonna say for the uninitiated such as myself, because okay, so you have Jane Austen, which is actual Regency because it was written in that period, right?
The Regency, yes.
Yeah, and then because I saw the trailer for this film, and when I saw the trailer, I was like, did Jane Austen write a book called Mr. Malcolm's List? And I actually had to go because I was like, that doesn't sound like what she would call a book. It doesn't sound like the kind of thing she would call a book. But everything about this seems to be almost aping Jane Austen. So I had to go actually look up and say, hang on, wait. So you say that there's a whole subgenre of things that, well, in my sort of like black and white ways, ape Jane Austen.
Yeah, so you've got the ones that ape Jane Austen, and more particularly Georgette Hare, who
Okay.
wrote her books in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Well, she died in the 70s. Most people ape her rather than Jane Austen.
Okay.
So they tend to be like the point when Regency romances really took off is like in the 50s because of Georgette Hare. And then since then they have gone down two different paths. You've got your saucy Regency, which is like the Bridgertons, where
Yep.
it's more about the sort of the woman's female sexual experience.
Yep.
And put in a historical setting. So it's like very much modern sensibilities in a historical setting. And
Yep.
then you've got ones that are like a traditional Regency, where they try to be historically accurate. They try to be more conscious of the period of time, rather than a modern love story just set 200 years ago. So
Yeah.
I would put this one as in like, it's a traditional Regency in that it's trying to be historically accurate, and it's trying to get things right. If you
Okay.
ignore like the casting, because it does do the sort of quite a modern thing, is colorblind.
The colorblind casting. Yeah.
So if you ignore that, its content is actually very much along the lines of a traditional Regency.
All right.
I
Cool.
think there's no sort of really sauciness in it. As we would say, my friends, when we would discuss sort of books like this, there's no nipples in it, basically. So you know what you're getting. So basically, this is it. I have to remind myself not to keep saying basically, because I've noticed whenever I watch my reviews, I say it about 5 times. I'm going to stop saying it. But in essence, this story is a romantic story. It starts off with 2 girls, we're childhood friends in a lady and a girls' seminary. The 2 characters, one's the daughter of a nobility and one's the daughter of a clergyman. So they're basically the same class, but their actual terms of income, they're quite different. Because clergy were regarded as being still gentlewomen rather than working people, or they were regarded as being gentlewomen. So they could associate with each other, even
Yep.
though their incomes were quite different.
Yes.
And the one who's the daughter of the clergy has basically been living in the vicarage with her family, a large number of siblings. And the one who's wealthy has been having her come out, and she's been in society. So she has
Yes.
been mixing with all the brands and the good. And while she was in London, she the most eligible bachelor in town is Mr. Malcolm.
Mm.
And he is basically most sought after because he's handsome, he's rich, he's got estates. He is like the catch of the season. And so basically all the girls are like going to throw themselves at him. And one of the characters, she is invited to the opera with Mr. Malcolm, and he pretty makes it quite clear very early on that he's bored by her. And because of his notoriety, this then comes a massive slight, and people they do cartoons about her, and she's basically humiliated because she's presented herself as like, the perfect match for him.
Yeah.
And he's not interested.
Yeah.
She invites her friend to come to London to basically to lure him into falling in love with her, so that she can then spurn him and thereby humiliating him. So it's set up as a great big trick on him. And it
Yes.
turns out that she has found out the first character, the one who has been spurned, that Mr. Malcolm has a list of the qualities he's looking for in a wife. So they have to be, handsome. They have to be from a good background. They have to be conscientious and be charitable and be intelligent, be interested in politics. And so there's quite this extensive list. And she thinks, my friend would probably meet all these qualifications. So if you come to London, if you get him to fall in love with you, then you spurn him, I get my revenge, and you get...
Dun, dun, dun.
So that is our story. It is the tangled tale of how, when she starts off thinking, I don't think this is quite a very good idea, but okay, and then them actually falling in love, and then it's like,
What?
what would happen
Sharon, what? Spoiler?
well, it's a romance. The spoiler is, what will happen if he finds out that it was a bit of a deception going on?
Okay, now this is the thing, right? So from that basic description of what the film's about, I kind of feel like you know exactly where everything is going to go. You know where the chips are going to fall. You know that, okay, cool, we're going to do this, and she's going to go along with it, and oh my god, it's going to happen that, oh, she is the perfect person. He's going to fall in love, and she's going to fall in love, but then he's going to find out, and then it's going to be a whole big falling out, and then, oh my god, we're not going to do, we ruined a big good thing, why did we do this in the first place? And then finally, whatever the Regency equivalent of the run through the airport is, happens. I don't know.
You've read the book. You've read it.
It's like,
and there's 1,000 like it, I have to say.
Okay, I guess the Regency equivalent would be like, a quick horse ride through a field. I don't know, but
You've seen the film.
okay, so this strikes me as one of those things where that it's not about they did something different. It's about how well they've done what they do. Because someone was talking to me earlier today about people who nowadays self-medicate with the TV show Friends. Like, you put it on to make yourself feel better. And this strikes me that if it's done properly, it's the kind of film that you put on to make yourself feel better. Do they do a good job with it?
They do, and it's like a dozen books of the type. But again, there's a comfort to reading a book where there's almost like a guaranteed. It's called an HEA, happily ever after, and
they haven't have an acronym for
acronyms.
it.
So there is a guaranteed HEA, and sometimes when you see, a lot of these books are on Kindle, and when you read the books at Kindle, they have this sentence at the end where it says, like, no cheating, no violence, or whatever, and then a guaranteed HEA. So you basically, what you're getting, and that's part of the verb of selling you the book, because there's a comfort in knowing how it's going to end. There's no tension in these books or in this film, so it does replicate that type of book on the screen. They've done the costumes well. There's a couple of things that I picked up on. That's just because I know my history, so I know the correct way of addressing the daughter of an earl. And a few times it's like, that isn't the correct form of address for that character. But I think unless you are a pedant about these things, you're not going to bother about that. But I just noticed it because I'm thinking, he would know how to address the daughter of an earl, and that's not it. So it just made me think, it just took me out of the film a little bit. Yeah. But that was only a slight thing. But on the whole, I thought, as opposed to some other films we have discussed, they did get the costumes about right. They got some of the manners right, some of the conventions right. So it felt like, yes, it was, you know what you're getting, but what you got was good, and it was quite as enjoyable. And it was a pleasant evening at the cinema. So I was surprised it was at the cinema, because it's the sort of film we have come to expect to be on streaming. It's not the sort of film that the last few years that we've seen at the cinema. Yeah. I was surprised when I was watching it, thinking, "What, this is like a traditional Regency romance? Why is this?"
So how many stars would you give it?
I would give it a 3, because it does what it says on the tin, to use an advertising slogan from the United Kingdom. But it delivers what it's supposed to deliver, so it hits those right notes, and no one is completely jarring. You have to accept that modern casting is colourblind casting, so we know that there weren't dukes and duchesses and earls and countesses from different ethnic backgrounds. They were genuinely tended to be white European backgrounds. Yeah. So, but if you can say that, okay, that's not relevant to this story because it's about a man and a woman falling in love, then it's it does what it's supposed to do. So I give it a 3.
Yeah, I think just a couple of things on the colorblind casting. I think that there's some times when it can work quite well. For instance, I know that there is it can work. The big one recently was The Personal History of David Copperfield.
I was going to say that one. Yeah. That was a good movie. That was good.
And I felt like, because it's Dickens, and Dickens has been told and retold and retold so many times, that I thought the colorblind casting actually added something totally new and actually made me pay attention to the thing. And I think it was done quite well then. And but I have to say, one of the things is, because you have Shokwe Dirisu, who plays Mr. Malcolm in this film, because Frida Pinto plays the female lead whose name I don't know, but Shokwa Dirisu, just because his name is in the title, I know it's like Mr. Malcolm, and and the fact is that he is of Nigerian descent. He's actually of Yoruba descent, which is he's of the same tribe as me, and because Yoruba is a tonal language, we have on our names, when our names are written properly, there are dashes either above or below our names to tell you how to pronounce them or what intonation to put on the name. And he has started doing this thing where his name, when it comes up on screen, has all the intonations. We call them Amiohun in Yoruba. And I was just, when I saw that in the trailer and I saw his name with it, I was like, oh, yes, I like that.
There is a scene in the film where he does, I didn't recognize the language, so it's possible that there is a scene where he does talk to her and he does say a few phrases in presumably Yoruba, because that's his.
Oh, okay, cool. Now you've just made this a must-watch.
He certainly does say a few things in his own language, whatever that is, his culture that Mr. Malcolm is from. But he certainly says a few phrases in his own language. So, because it's they haven't ignored the fact that he's
that everybody looks different than you would expect them to look.
Yeah. So I'd be interested to know if he did speak Yoruba in the film.
Oh, okay, yeah. You've made this a must watch now. You've made this a must watch because he's probably best known for being in Gangs of London, which is a show that Sean, I still think you would love, and I think you should watch that.
Okay.
All right, cool. And now we go over to Netflix and Friends, and I'm going to take this one because I've been the only one who's been watching stuff at home that doesn't have to do with the Queen. So and I'm gonna come up with the other one on BBC iPlayer. Now the other one is a comedy series, and as I say, I usually have trouble sort of like reviewing comedy series because without trying to sort of like do bad recreations of the best jokes, and this stars Ellie White and what's her name, Lauren Socha. I think it's either Socha or Socha. It's Socha, and the show starts off, and you have this lady she's called Kathy. She's called Kathy, and she's a bit uptight, and she's a bit kind of like she's angry with her boyfriend, but you can see that she's all kind of like, oh, this must be done, that must be done. Works in the law office, and so she's kind of like cross all the T's, dot all the I's kind of person, and it's her dad's birthday. They're going to have a surprise party for her dad. Everybody goes to the house, and then they sort of like, and her mum has organized this surprise party for her dad, and everybody's all like, shh, keep quiet. And she speaks to one of his friends, and she's like, oh, Ben, do you know where he's at? And Ben's like, yeah, he told me he'll be here soon. And then her dad walks into the house and is like on the phone going, yes, bye. Then he puts the phone down and is like, oh, darling, I'm sorry I'm late. I was just having a couple of drinks with Ben. The Ben who was actually in the room. I was just having a couple of drinks with Ben. It's just been and everyone's looking around going, but what do you mean? Ben's here. Then he opens up the door. Everybody goes, surprise! And he goes, and immediately falls dead from a heart attack. And the next scene is his funeral, where his wife says something along the lines of, it's like with me and Colin together, we were together for like 30 years, and he was my sweet music. But then I found out that he had the same sweet music with somebody else, and then you find that in the church, you have everybody is on one side. On the other side of the church of the pews are only two people, and it turns out that he had a 30-year affair with a woman, had a daughter with her, who he called Kath as well. So these two daughters were born within about a week of each other. So this man had been keeping this thing going on, and it all becomes this whole. So the other one refers to this new family that they have, and this new daughter that he has, and it's about how this mother and daughter, while trying to go through grieving, are dealing with the fact that their dad and husband has been lying to them for the last 30 years and had this whole other family squirreled away somewhere. And while that sounds like it could be the plot of EastEnders or EastEnders or anything like that, they bring so much. They pull so much comedy out of it because this is hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. I mean, they do the typical thing because obviously, if you're going to have one uptight sister who sort of like dots all the I's, crosses all the T's, the other one is a bit of a free spirit, and one of them, because she was the legitimate daughter, got all the best schooling, and the other one went to like a grammar school or something like that and is a bit chavvy. But the way it's played between Ellie White and Lauren Socha is so brilliantly done. This is a kind of show that totally rises and falls on the performances, and I think the performances are brilliant. They are nuanced. The sort of things they come up with are great. And even though you've seen this sort of like odd couple match before, where one's uptight and one's free spirited, I mean, think Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, that kind of thing. It's sort of like you've seen it done before, but the way it's done here is just really, really, really great. And I think all the actors are brilliant. Rebecca Front, and the final episode, because there's two seasons of this, and I've finished season 1. I've started season 2, and the final episode of season 1, I think, does a very clever thing, because they play with your expectations of the way this sort of story goes. They play with your expectations of who usually shows up in these sort of TV shows in the current British landscape. So I didn't watch it while it went out live, but I can see exactly what they would have done. And there's one character that shows up in the final episode, and you go, "Oh, I see what's going to happen here." Blah 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 blah. I mean, even my wife walked in. I had to show her the episode, and I walked in. She started watching, and she was like, "Oh, so that's going to be that. And that's going to be that. That's going to be that." And the way they play with your expectations of the final episode, I thought was really, really clever. So I really like the other one. I'm going to totally watch I've started watching the second season. And the first episode shows you that, when a show is kind of tentative at the beginning, then it hits a point where it hits its stride and it knows exactly what it's doing, and it's confident, and the first episode of season 2 is, these people know what they're doing now. This thing is, because the second episode of season 2 just flies. It flies. And it's one of those things where, when you're watching a comedy show and then they add one thing and they add another thing and everything just builds up on top of each other until this sort of crescendo, and you're like, this is genius. So I really like it. I would give the other one, quiet alarm, I know my time's up. I would give the other one, season 1, a 4 out of 5, because I just thought I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was brilliant. And I would recommend it. So I would recommend it. I think definitely, Sharon, I think you'd like it. Sean, I don't know. You do surprise me sometimes.
I do, yeah. I do.
But I think it's really, really good. Right, and now we go back to cinema and we go to Hatching. And now, Hatching, this is a film that Sean wanted to speak about last week, but I know that you and Sharon saw it together at a preview screening. And I was like, no, let's put this one off and let Sharon come in and let's talk about Hatching.
That's what I wanted, because Sharon would be able to put this much better than I would.
and this was weirdly, when you said you watched Hatching, I'd never heard of it until that day, and I'd just seen a trailer for it the same day that you said you'd watched it, and all I can say is that this trailer looked weird. So Sean, tell me, was I right? Is this film weird?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. I think it's pretty weird. I think Sharon would probably be able to be more eloquent when she's telling the actual story. So I don't know. I'll let Sharon sort of explain it, because I think she's much better explain it, and then I can give my reactions.
Okay, this is set. Well, just to explain how we came about seeing it. They do secret screenings at the cinema near where we live. So you go in and you don't know what you're going to see. And until it basically starts. Yeah. And so I was thinking, please don't be animation. Please don't be animation. Please don't be animation.
Yeah. And I was thinking, it's funny enough, I was thinking, I bet I know what this is. I bet I know what this is. I bet I know what this is. It was, but yeah. So
when the screen starts, so all the audience don't know what they're going to get. So when the screen starts, it suddenly comes up, Hatching. 15 scenes of violence, scenes of gore, scenes of blah, 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 blah. And then instantly some people got up and said, oh, no, I'm not watching that.
And then another bunch went about 10 minutes into the film.
10 minutes in, because it's a film set and entirely in Finnish. It's a film from Finland.
Yes.
So as soon as it was like subtitles, and people went, no, I'm not watching subtitles. That's it, I'm off. And then then you immediately become aware this is not going to be a conventional film. There's a degree of oddness, and then get another people left. So we were able to then choose our seats, because the whole row we were going to sit on was we were like, we'll just go sit there now.
Yeah, it was brilliant. We liked that. I think people thought we were going to leave, and then we sort of wandered down, and then we just sat down.
So was the cinema kind of full?
It was.
There's quite a few in.
Yeah, it's quite a few people.
Okay, cool, good. Well, at least to begin with.
At least
To begin with, and then about 15. But I'd say about at least 15 people got up and left.
Yeah.
Within the first quarter of an hour. So basically, setting the scene. So it's a bit of an unsettled start to the film, but it's a film set in Finland, and you see a girl. She is the main character, and she is a gymnast. She has been shaped and molded into becoming the perfect gymnast. And we then find out as the film progresses that basically this is not her own dream. This is the dream of her mother, who has ambitions that her daughter is going to become a champion. Come what may, she is going to become a champion. And all of her own frustrations and fears and desires have been funneled into her daughter.
Yeah.
And her mum has got her own channel where basically she portrays like the perfect finished line. It's called something like Happiness or Happiness Every Day, or I can't remember.
Like a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Her own YouTube channel, where she films her daughter doing gymnasts. Everything is perfect. She has a loving husband. She has this beautiful daughter who looks just like her little mini-me, and then she has a little boy. And so she has this perfect family, and she has this perfect life. And then the more you see, you begin to see cracks almost straight away, because at one scene you see this bird flies into the room, and it's not a spoiler, but at the very beginning, they catch this bird, and they think, oh, they're going to catch the bird, and then they're going to like release it. But the mother catches the bird and then wrings its neck, basically. So you know within the first couple of minutes, this is not.
this ain't that kind of movie.
Yeah.
And so it's unsettling. And then when the girl goes exploring, she finds, I'm not going to go on about the bird, but she finds basically an egg that she believes that this bird, the one that got in the house and was killed by the mum, has left an egg. So when you first see her find this egg, you think, oh, I hope she's not going to smash it or anything. But then she decides that as the mother bird is dead, she's now going to take the egg and she's going to care for it. And it turns out that this is not an ordinary egg, that as she looks after it, it starts to grow, and it starts off the size of like a pigeon's egg, and then it grows to like the size of an ostrich, and then it just basically it grows. And then and then she basically pours into this egg all her fears, all her emotions. She cares for it, she hides it, she protects it, but when she's upset, she cries into it, and this egg absorbed all of everything that goes
all her emotions,
all her emotions, but it gets sucked into this egg, and then it starts to grow to monstrous proportions, and then basically it hatches. And what it hatches is what we then follow the story through the rest of the film, what has hatched out of this egg.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Sharon. Nice,
Sharon, that
synopsis.
was so good.
Synopsis by Sharon. And now let's have a reaction by Shaun. So, Shaun, what did you think?
Okay, well, yeah. So everything Sharon said, it was pretty bizarre. To start off with, I was thinking a lot of different things. I thought, well, maybe the egg is not real. It's just sort of something that's going on in her mind, a bit one of those psychological things that you do. You know, it's just her psychology is actually manifesting itself, which I suppose it was really. But the creature. I won't give any spoilers, but let's just say there's another transformation as well, and all the way through the film, it was really, really sort of an odd film, and it took me ages to think, do I like this? I think it was a little bit too long for me. It was just that little bit too long. I mean, I like the idea. I like some of the way it went. But yeah, it's pretty bizarre. It's pretty bizarre, and I mean, Finland looks a lovely, clean place, doesn't it? With I mean, the cinema. I thought the cinematography was quite good. And I thought it was well acted. I don't know about you, Shaun. I thought it was well acted. I thought the girl acted pretty well. So it was pretty well acted, and there was a lot of other things going on. I quite like. Well, I can't really give the spoilers, so I won't give them more like that because I expect you want to see it. But yeah, so I mean, on the whole, I think I sort of liked it. I didn't put it this way. I didn't dislike it. It was odd, it was strange, but I didn't dislike it. I wouldn't say I was like, whoa, with it. It wasn't that wow factor, but yeah, it was quite interesting and thoughtful, and made you think a little bit. And yeah, so that's probably a thoughtful film. I think the last film that made me think of this was like Mother.
Or what about Nope?
Pardon?
Nope.
Nope. Yeah, yeah. So a bizarre film, rather strange. Yeah, rather strange affair. So yeah, I'm still thinking about it now and then. It still sort of flicks up. But
all
the
right.
creature's quite interesting. Yeah, sorry, Sharon.
Yeah, I think it's rich in symbolism. I think
Yes.
you can see, I could to use it like a biblical expression, sort of what you reap, you sow.
So,
And
Yeah.
so I think there's elements of that with the mother-daughter relationship, with the girl and the hatching.
Her own nurturing relationship.
Yeah, so how the sins of the father, to use another biblical expression, how there's rich in symbolism here, and I think there's probably, if we looked into it probably more deeply, then you'd probably see much more into it. But it's sort of layered. So on the surface of it, it's a almost like a creature feature.
Yeah.
But then it goes down, whereas all of these creature features are not, basically they are other metaphors, or they are symbolic of something else. So I can see how it's how it is, how there isn't just a straightforward psychological horror. There's more to it.
Yeah. Speaking of that, before I forget, Shaun, if you go onto YouTube and look at our review of Nope, somebody has gone on there and left a comment, and it is pretty much an essay on the film, and it's one that has been there for about 2 weeks, and each time we've done the show, I've been like, I don't have time to read this out in full because it's quite long, but it's pretty much kind of like what Sharon is saying. Like, if you go deeper into it, you can see a whole bunch of meaning that possibly not everybody would see, but but yeah. So okay, with that. Because I saw the trailer for this, and what you guys were saying about the cinematography, because I saw the trailer for this, and this trailer is wordless. There's no words spoken in it. But everything about this trailer, I was like, I don't think this is Hollywood. I don't think this is English. I don't think this film is in English. And it was good to know that was backed up and everything. But even the trailer with no words in it got the whole thing of this is unsettling across to you. It's just so it's like everything is, you were talking about it looking like a clean place. It looked really, really clean, but like too clean. Like like the trailer, the cinema, it looks intriguing. It looks intriguing, and even though I'm not a big horror fan, it's a film that because it's Scandinavian, and I always feel like if a film is made in Scandinavia, something weird's gonna come out of that, and something interesting is gonna come out of that. But how many stars would you give it?
For me, I would probably just give it a 3 because I just found it a little bit too long. I mean, I like the ideas and that, and I didn't dislike it, and it was a very thoughtful film. So they'd probably give this one a 3, I think, for me.
Yeah, I'm torn between between a 3 and a 4 because I like that. I like the look of it. It reminded me in some ways of the look about Let the Right One In.
Yes.
Yeah.
That sort of northern, unsettling. There's sort of ancient things creeping in but you get that feeling that scratch the surface and there's something almost pagan underneath there. But you get that feeling because I do like sort of Scandi stuff, and I do like Tove Jansson, who wrote the Moomin books. And people think of the Moomins as being like these really sweet, cuddly children things, but when you read them, they have got these dark undercurrents to them. And when you read Tove Jansson's adult books, there's this tone underneath them. So I think there's like this part of that Finnish psyche is that civilization, there is a bit of a veneer in some areas and that you scratch underneath it and you have got these dark there's a dark past there.
Yeah, well, I can totally, I can identify with that. I mean, if you're seeing this on video, you can see what the room I'm in looks like, and this is how I live my life when I'm allowed. So I always, whenever anything is like really clean and spick and span, I am immediately suspicious, and I am like, nope, that's unnatural. That doesn't look right. So cool. So we have
between a 3 and a 4. So I'll have to give it like a 3.5.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. We have a 3.5 there for hatching. And now with that, cracking on, because we got, let's see, what's this? 5 more things to talk about. And now we go back to Netflix itself, and we're going to talk about The Sandman. I watched this, and The Sandman is an adaptation of the seminal graphic novel, to give it his grown-up word, by Neil Gaiman. It's about by Neil Gaiman about Sandman, otherwise known as Dream of the Endless, who is the Lord of Dreams. So the idea is that there is this realm called the Dreaming, which is where all humans go when they fall asleep, and he is in charge of it. And this is quite a faithful adaptation with some things that have been updated because the book was written in the 80s, in 1980, and there were some things that, the world's different now, so they've updated the things that, but the whole idea is that it starts off with this group of people led by Charles Dance, and he calls himself the Magus, the Grand Magus, and what they're trying to do is that they are trying to capture death, and they have this sort of like almost occultic ritual where they're trying to capture death. His reason is because he lost his son in I think it was the First World War when this thing started. He lost his son in the First World War, and he wants to capture death because if they capture death, then he can make death give his son back. And so they do this whole thing, and they run their whole thing. There's the whole extremely I give you a feather from an angel and blood from a virgin goat and all that kind of stuff. Then they do all this thing in this circle, and this humanoid-looking creature just appears in the middle of the circle. And they think they've captured death, but they haven't actually captured death. What they've captured is they've captured Dream, and in this whole thing there's 7 creatures called the Endless. There's Dream, there's Death, there's Desire. They all start with D. There's Despair. There's I can't remember what the other 3 are, but they've captured Dream instead. So they keep Dream in this area, and they're like, all right, cool, that's it. Dream, otherwise known as, he has many names. It's kind of like, one of those Game of Thrones things where everybody has 15 different names. He is called Kaikul, he is called Morpheus, he is called Dream of the Endless, he is called I always said Morpheus anyway. But so they have him there, and they keep him there. And the idea is that he's there for something like 100 years. And it's all about, so the first bit that kicks off is what happens when the Lord of Dreams goes. How does that affect the rest of humankind? So you have some people who fall asleep and never wake up. They don't die, they just never wake up. You have some people who can't go to sleep, and it's all the stuff that goes in, all the havoc that's wrecked on the world. And they have things like, there's some nightmares that he's created in the dream world that escape the dream world and go into the real world. And one of the nightmares is somebody called the Corinthian, who is scary as hell. Because it's scary as, let me put it this way: he doesn't have eyes; he has teeth for eyes, and he comes into the real world and it kind of becomes like a serial killer and all that. And this is a show that I think will. It already has. It's polarizing. Some people think it's rubbish. Some people think it's the best thing ever. And I actually own the entire Sandman collection. I have that that's what I have on my bookshelf. Not Regency romances, Sharon. I have the Sandman on my bookshelf, and I've read.
I won't point out my shelf there, but that's all my biographies, and I've got about 6 about the Duke of Wellington, who's my my collection. My Duke of Wellington collection.
So that's what I have on my bookshelf. So I've read all of these, and even when I read it, because everybody raved about this comic, I said how brilliant it was, and I read it, and I did not think it was as brilliant as everybody was saying it was. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was as brilliant. I didn't think it was like an undeniable classic. I was reading it going, some people will not like this, and the thing about it is because when you have something that's set in dreams. And you know how you have dreams, right? You know how dreams can be like all sorts of random stuff that goes left, right, and center and all. I feel like Neil Gaiman almost took that, and he took the Sandman books are kind of like unbridled creativity. They're just unbridled creativity that doesn't always necessarily have a. Hang on a second, I'll just put Shaun on mute. It's like the unbridled creativity that doesn't necessarily always have a point. It's just kind of like, it's a dream world. I'm going to be creative because I can be creative, and it goes all over the shop and all. And the first bit of the novels, of the graphic novels, is about Dream getting free and him trying to reclaim his realm and him trying to reclaim all these. So it's very episodic. It's like, I have lost my helm, I must go find my helm. One episode about him finding his helm. I have lost my ruby, I must get my ruby. One episode about him finding his ruby. I have lost my sand, I must get my sand. An episode about him going and finding his sand. And and you have all these people who come into like Jenna Coleman shows up for one episode, and each comes into this one episode because it is their own particular episode, and it's episodic. So there isn't really this thing sort of joining it together, which you have in the comic as well, because you have it where there isn't something that's really joining the first things together. The second half of the series is a lot more propulsive because that's one story that carries all the way through, and you have all these other people who show up. John Cameron Mitchell shows up, Stephen Fry shows up, Lenny Henry shows up at one point, even though you won't recognize him, and it's so I liked it. But even as I liked it, I was watching it going, you know what? Not everybody's gonna like this. This is not for everybody. Shaun, we've put you on mute if you want to unmute yourself. So yeah, and I was like kind of like, no, not everybody's going to like this. I'll tell you what it's like. It's kind of like, when they talk about unbridled creativity, and it's about you're watching Morpheus played by Tom Sturridge, and it's as if you're just watching him walking through one land where random stuff happens, and then next episode walking through another land where random stuff happens. Now I'm going to go to hell and we're going to see Lucifer, who's played by Gwendolyn Christie. Yep, that's it. And now we're going to forget about that and we're going to go off to this direction. And they've done stuff to change the comics, because obviously the comics were released month on month and you could do that. They've started to change it and to have more of an underlying arching story that links it together. And this first season follows the first 2 volumes of stories that were done. So there's a very definite halfway cut in this season where that's that story over with and now a new story. So I quite like it. I think the design is good, but I think the same problems that I had with the Sandman the comic carryover, I feel it could be seen as indulgent. Depending on how you are, it could be very well seen as indulgent, and because it's Neil Gaiman just being creative, because it's a dream world and you can totally be creative, and let's be honest, dreams don't make sense. So I would give this a 3. I'll give this a 3 out of 5, and I would say with that proviso that you might like it, you might hate it. And it really does depend on who you are, and I couldn't tell you which one. I couldn't tell you where it is that you'll end up. So yeah, that's it. 3 stars for the Sandman.
Oh, I've been intrigued by that one, so I will check that one out definitely, because I've read a bit of Neil Gaiman, so I thought but I wanted to. It was almost like too much to watch in one hit. So it's one of those films I think, and I want to watch it, but I'm going to put it off and watch it.
Yeah. I think that's probably roundabout. That's probably fair. I mean, it's Neil Gaiman, so you know that there's going to be bits where he goes dark. There's going to be he has this habit of mixing a fairy tale with some of the darkest stuff you've ever think about. Like there's a bit where they get to a thing called a serial convention, and the idea of the serial convention is just don't worry. When you watch that, let's see.
Rice Krispies, then I'm assuming. Rice Krispies versus cornflakes.
It's spelt like that. And I'm with
Wow.
It's spelt like that, but when you watch it, you see that it's something totally different. But anyway, let's move on. That's 3 stars for the Sandman. Watch it, Sharon, and let me know what you think.
Okay.
And now we go to Crimes of the Future, and this, Shaun, you saw this at cinema.
I did see this at the cinema.
This is David Cronenberg, back on David Cronenberg style form, because even the synopsis of this film sounds like it's like early 80s David Cronenberg as opposed to History of Violence David Cronenberg. So it sounds like Videodrome type of David Cronenberg. Okay, let me try and give a brief synopsis from what I've understood about this film. This is set in a future where humans don't feel pain anymore, and now what they do for entertainment, it's a bit like, in the olden days where you would go to the Colosseum and you would watch people get mauled by lions.
It's basically it's like an exhibition, so they've got these machines where I wouldn't say there's no pain, it's because it is, but instead of now, rather than have, like, should we say, normal relations, normal sex, it's all sort of fashioned to have surgery and it makes you. It's like the new
turn on.
The new turn on, yeah. So people get, and I mean, there's a few minutes in it where people are talking about surgery, and you can see they're starting to get really sort of amorous, when they're just talking about it, and it's like an art exhibition as well. So
okay,
and they grow new organs and things, and they've got these pod things that can do operations and stuff, and everybody watches them, and you get pretentious people with cameras and all video in and saying, oh yes, and and then the after parties where they're all like smoking and and then you've got a couple of ladies that just it is just totally weird and bizarre.
It's David Cronenberg.
It's David Cronenberg. So and then there's like an organ donor place where Kirsten Stewart lives. All these we've got to save all these new different flavored organs and tattooed. It is totally bizarre, yes, and it's very bloody. And if you're a bit squeamish, probably, or a bit faint-hearted, it's probably not for you, because there's a lot of scalpel work, and I'm an artist. I'm going to do, I'm going to make this operation, and I'm going to, there's this woman that's, oh yes, well I'm fed up with being beautiful, so I want to be, she has like a face. Or reminds me a bit of, I used to read the 2000 AD, and there was this thing called Otto Sump's Ugly Clinic, where he used to make people ugly. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, it's really bizarre. I think the cinematography is really interesting as well, and it's not like modern stuff. It's like the pods and the chairs and all that are all very weird, and have got very weird movements, and it's all very bony, and it's just bizarre, and all these artists vying for, we can do this, we can do that, and you say you've got these two. They basically, I want to go in the pod. I want to go in the pod with my girlfriend, and that. So there's a little bit of nudity and stuff in there. It is an 18, so I would have been intrigued. I would have loved to have seen this with Sharon. I would have seen, because just to see her reaction, because we might have done one of those knowing looks, whereas she might look surprised. Say, what are you doing here, Sean? Why did you bring me to see this movie? So, but anyway, I thought it was. I thought it was really interesting. Is it Kirsten Stewart? She's in it.
Yeah, Kirsten Stewart. Yeah.
She is a really versatile actress. Oh, actor.
She is.
She's really, and she plays a terrific part in this. She really dresses down. She's a bit dowdy. She's one of these organ ones, and she's after the big artists.
Sorry, Kristen Stewart, not Kirsten.
Kristen Stewart. Yeah. So yeah. Kristen Stewart. Yeah. So she was really good as and I really like the pretentious arty. What should we say, the nouveau rich that come and watch these operations, and all stand around and come in with the videos and take all the pictures and that, and people being ecstatic sort of thing by being cut open and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty bizarre stuff. So yeah, it was okay. Yeah, cool.
Well, the thing is, like you say, pretty bizarre stuff, but this sounds to me like David Cronenberg, because back doing his thing, because when I thought David Cronenberg, I used to think, okay, David Cronenberg, I'm thinking The Fly, I'm thinking Videodrome, I'm thinking Dead Zone. That for me was always David Cronenberg. Then I remember when he came up with The History of Violence, and I remember hearing about this film, and I was like, okay, so where's the body horror? Where's the bit where, a man grows a rodent out of his ass or something like that? where is it? And, and I was like, oh, there isn't any that. Then he did Eastern Promises, and you're like, okay, cool. Like, this is good. Oh no, this is. What is going on here? What is going on with this dude? That he seems to. I even remember, in the 90s, Existence, where they had a bone gun that shot teeth at people, and that is what I think of when I think of David Cronenberg. And
he does seem to have a fixation with bony things. I don't know why. Yeah. It's like he does like his bones. I mean, the furniture was like bones. It looked like some sort of wooden bones which would move while you're eating and stuff. And there'd be all this while you're eating your bits and bobs, and the chair would be tapping you on the head and stuff. And look at Sharon's face. It's just totally.
That's gonna put you off.
What is that chair about? You know what I mean? And we can eat in plastic. Change the whole.
Don't want to interact with my furniture. Thanks.
No, that's it. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre thing. You think, what is that? You know what I mean?
You see, it's bizarre, but in a reassuring way. I'm kind of like, oh yes, he's back. Now I know what I'm getting again, because when he was making all these films, which are really good, I love History of Violence and Eastern Promises, those are really good films, but when he was making them, I was kind of a bit uneasy, because you're just waiting for
something
a bony chair to come out of nowhere. you're just waiting for the fact where you think this is a film about Russian mobsters in London, and it turns out, oh no, it's actually all taking place in an alien's gut. And now this sounds like, yes, okay, cool, we know what we're getting from him again. But how many stars would you give this one?
Okay, so this one, it was, as I say, it was full of gore and not for the squeamish and the faint-hearted, but people like the bizarre, a bit like me, a bit weirdy sort of stuff. But I will give this, I wasn't wowed by it, so this will be a standard 3. I'll give this one a 3-star. So okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't amazingly good, but it was interesting and quite visually strange.
Well, you see now that's the thing. I would expect at least visually strange from David Cronenberg. Though at least something interesting, if disgusting.
Yeah.
that's my David Cronenberg. Interesting, if disgusting. That's that's my 3-word review of David Cronenberg. But anyway, now we go on to Netflix and Love in the Villa, and this sounds like the. Sharon, your face. I mean, I'm sorry, but no, this sounds like the type of the film, the trailer, because they had a series of films starring Kristen Milian with terrible puns like falling in love with it's and resort to love, and this feels like it's almost like one of those Love in the Villa. It's not quite a pun, but it is such a mindless title, quite frankly, and it feels like when we do Netflix in cinema, this sounds like the kind of film that will sink whatever side it comes out on. If it's in the cinema, it's going to sink it for the week. If it's on Netflix, it's going to sink it for the week. Is that the case?
Yeah. This is if you had like painting by numbers for a film, this would be the equivalent of a sunflower. That you had like 3 pots of paint. You had a yellow and you had an orange and you had a green, and that's it. You can do the whole picture. And this is a painting by numbers film. It's fine, but I only watched it a week ago, and I'd probably, if I wasn't reviewing it, I would have forgotten that I'd seen it, quite frankly. But it's harmless. But it is. If you aware like the Hallmark film, they have a Hallmark Christmas film.
Yes.
You know that every year they're probably going to produce about 20 of these things. And
Yes.
there's going to be a dedicated television channel where it churns these things out endlessly.
Yes.
And you could put the television on, watch a quarter of an hour, and then go away for 3 hours and watch the next film. And it would almost be like seamless. You probably wouldn't realise you're watching a different film. And you could do that for the whole month of Christmas. You could just watch 10 minutes, and basically 10 minutes a day for the month before Christmas. And then by the end of it, you would have seen one film.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't make any difference that it, change of cast every 10 minutes. This is, there's a template for these films and they stick to it. And this is what they've done. So this film is about a woman who's wronged in love, aren't they all? And she decides that she's been saving up. This is America, by the way, so they only get like 1 week's annual leave a year, which I think is a thing.
It's a thing in America, yeah.
Yeah, so that she's been saving up. She's saving up for her week's holiday. So she's rented a villa. There's going to be like the perfect romantic getaway for her and her fiance. She's set it all up so he can then finally propose, and her life will then be. She's been dreaming of this holiday and this proposal for years. She's invested so much in this man that this is going to be the culmination of all her hopes and dreams. And then the week before their holiday, he decides that maybe not, that, it's all too much and I'm not going. So she decides to go alone. And unfortunately for this particular week, her villa's been double booked. Oh no!
Oh no!
And it just happens that the person who's double booked is this really handsome man.
Oh no!
Oh no! And when she walks in, he's just had a shower.
Oh no!
So,
Triple oh no!
It's like a whoa, wowza, moment. And then, can you guess the rest?
Yeah.
They don't like each other. So initially, it's like they don't like each other, and then they do. Then there's something that separates them, and they get back together.
And then somebody rides a horse across an airport to mix 2 romantic movie metaphors.
And then against the background of of Verona, which I personally don't like very much because I got bitten by a bat there.
Oh, where?
In Verona.
Oh, Verona. Okay, cool. I thought you said Corona.
No, I got bitten by a bat in Verona, so it's not my favourite place in the world. But that's it, basically.
That's it. All you need to know. All you need to know. Okay, so it's not even like a meal. It's not even like a sugar snack. It's kind of like an air sandwich.
Yeah, it's like a bag of Maltesers. It's sort of light. It has fun for a little while, but you enjoy it and then it's gone.
It's good.
So But it's one of those films. It's like the bloke from and the woman from. So it's like the bloke from Umbrella Academy, and he was in Merlin, and it's like the woman
Oh
who
yeah,
was from Vampire Diaries. So it's that sort of film. It's the bloke from and the woman from,
Tom Hooper.
you know who. So
Yeah.
it does what it's supposed to do. It's entertaining. It's light. It's fluffy. It's almost instantly forgettable. So it's fine. So I won't be mean about it because it's like kicking a puppy, isn't it? You know, it wasn't ever supposed to be anything other than what it was.
It's like the puppy pooed on the carpet. Well, it's a puppy.
Yeah, so it wasn't. You couldn't hate it. It's not in it to hate it. But you couldn't love it as the best film ever either. So it is perfect 3 territory. It does what it's supposed to do, but it's not outstanding, but it's not dreadful either. So it's fun. It's a happy an hour and a half that you can just watch it while you're doing something else. Probably.
So what, you said 3 stars?
Yeah.
Oh, I was expecting lower than that.
Well,
I don't know about you, Sean.
Yeah, I was as well, especially from the text.
If
from
you
the
compared
test.
it to any other good film, it would be like a 2. But it's like if you compare it in its own world.
Is it one of those things where you're like, look, if you're going to watch a film called Love in the Villa, you know what you're getting yourself in for.
You know what
so you shouldn't walk around going, oh my God, it was a 0-star movie. What did you expect it to be?
Yeah, because you're not going to say, why didn't this win a Grammy or not Grammy? Why didn't this win the Oscar? Because it was never ever going to be in that world. I mean, it was never going to be. It never could be a 4 or 5-star film. But to give it like a 2 or a 1, it's like kicking a puppy. It's just not fair. So it doesn't deserve to be mistreated. It's just, it is what it is. So I'll give it a 3 because it is what it is.
Just like a puppy, it's just trying to be cute and fluffy, and it achieves that. All right, cool. That's our final film in cinema. Sean, this is the film we're talking about that has shown up out of absolutely nowhere. No fanfare, no nothing. Didn't even know it existed. And you saw a film called The Retaliators. Tell us what on earth this mushroom film that has just shot up overnight is.
Okay, so I'll give you the prologue, all right? Because I mean, if a thing. So basically, there's a truck full of girls in a combi van, and they go, oh, we got a bit off track. Better take this, then we'll go through this place. And then they get a tire, they get a blowout on a tire. So one of the girls gets out to blow a tire, and you see a few things running about and all that. And then the girl with the tire gets like smashed, and it's like, creatures that are all cut up and bloody zombie-like. This guy opens the back of the truck, and they're going, it's zombies. And he goes, they're not zombies. And then he gets dragged under the truck. And that's the prologue, basically. And then it goes into the story. So that's the start of the film. But it's just so you're like, whoa, this is intriguing. They're not zombies. Whoosh, and off he goes. And then everyone else, I assume they're all killed because this is another 18, and it's very, very, there's lots and lots of blood in this. So basically the story, I suppose you'd call it, I don't know if you could call it a revenge flick, or you could call it, yeah. Well, it's basically a revenge flick. So it's this preacher.
The name like The Retaliators.
Yeah. So this is a preacher, and then it flashes to somewhere in New Jersey, and they're buying a Christmas tree, and there's this father he's got his 2 girls, and another bloke takes a Christmas tree, and he sort of turns the other cheek. He's like, oh, okay, then, happy Christmas and all that. And his daughters are a little bit, oh, Dad, why don't you stand up? You work out and stuff and all this. Why don't you? But he's a pastor. He's a pastor in the church. He's got a big congregation. Yeah. So he's like turns the other cheek and stuff. And then let's just say something happens to one of his daughters, which was really, really good. It wasn't silly what happened, that sort of thing. It wasn't like silly. So I thought, oh, wow, this is actually something that could possibly happen.
Yeah.
And of course, so let's just say, he gets it. All right. So basically, this is just like a total back to the 80s schlock horror, total loads of blood, loads of gory characters. You've got Hell's Angels, you've got, loads of druggies, loads of sleazeballs, loads of, it's just Man, it's just great. It was just so out of left field. It was just like, I cannot believe I've so long have I watched over the weeks. There's been these films that have been okay, maybe not okay, maybe, and then all of a sudden, bang, in your face, super schlock, blood, heads rolling, limbs being thing, people going through minces. It's just like, like everywhere. It's just like total everywhere. And a lot of the actors in this film or bit parts are all from bands like Motley Crue and Five. So there's all these characters turn up, and they're really, really well acted. And even at the end, after all the credits, you've got these people saying, "Oh man, when I was asked to be in this movie." And so it's all sort of behind the scenes of what happened and stuff. And so
yeah.
I want to do this again, man. I want to, you know what I mean? Imagine. So yeah, and it's just, so you've got that beginning, you've got a little run up, only a short run up. And what I liked about this, although it was the things that happened, the scenes that happened, and as they happened were, well, I believe anyway, which I thought were, yeah, okay, that's going to happen. That's not silly. That's how it could go. Do you know what I mean? So I wasn't don't be so blood. Even though the blood and guts and gore and all that was like, whoa, this is good. Shotguns, and it's just a total slicey shoot and mince and crack and fest with gushings of blood going everywhere. Like ridiculous amounts of blood that probably you probably wouldn't even have enough blood in the body for what was coming out of some of these. You know what I mean?
Is it a bit Evil Dead?
Possibly, yeah. There's possibly some nods to Evil Dead. There's possibly some nods to some other films in there, but I didn't really. For me, I was just enjoying the film so much that I wasn't getting I wasn't getting
because I was looking at it. So obviously, I said this film showed up out of nowhere. Have absolutely no clue. I've gone to look at some of just to get some information about it. And one of the things it says that it has Tommy Lee of the drummer from Motley Crue, the one who was famously married to Pamela Anderson. Yeah. He just plays a character that's only called Strip Club DJ.
Club DJ, yeah. So,
and the fact that you have that makes me. I was happy you said like this sort of like a throwback to the 80s, because I was like, this sounds very 80s.
Yeah. Well, I've been to like you said, DJ. I've been to clubs where people like that DJ in certain times, in certain places. So but like I say, what I really liked about this was everything was sort of, except for, here comes the except, is
the ending. The last 10 minutes were stupid.
Well, no, they weren't. It wasn't really stupid. It was just, well, I suppose perhaps maybe it was, but like I've had this thing where you get the finale punch up where
they throw away all the weapons because we're
so much punishment, and you're like, God, how can you you might be fit, you might be beefed, you might be like super fit, but there's no way you're going to end up being slammed about and thrown about. And it was a bit like that what was the Florence Pugh film, Black Widow, where some of the things that happen, you just think that's going to put you out. There's no way you're going to get up from that sort of punishment. So yeah, but I can forgive that, because the rest of the film was just for me, it was just a super. I think I shouldn't imagine it would appeal to everybody. I should imagine some people would find it quite. Because it was such a throwback to the 80s, because some of the cinema crowd went, some of the, like Ben and some of the cinema crowd went, and I asked them what they thought afterwards, and they were like,
the people who actually work in the cinema.
Cinema went to see it, but they're obviously a lot younger, and yet, see, they like bodies, where me and Sharon were like, get out of here, So it must just be a generation thing. I suppose it's like my 70s movies. You know what I mean? It's like a throwback to that I got. But I was so pleased that I took this one in, because I had no preconceptions. I had no idea what it was about.
And you said it was pretty much in the cinema for one day and it's gone.
For one day, yeah. So I mean,
so how many stars would you give this?
Well, I'm going to give this a 4. If it hadn't been for that silly bit at the fight thing, I probably would have given this a 5. But there was enough in it not to stop me giving it a 5. But I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I'm so glad I've seen it after what I have seen so far, that this brought back my faith in cinema.
Oh wow, a schlocky horror.
I'm really enthusiastic about
a schlocky horror bloodbath, and I'm guessing that because it's 80s, sort of like nudity as well, with Tommy Lee in it.
No, there's no nudity.
No nudity.
No. Just in the sleazeball DJ bit. But
Sleazeball
apart from
DJ.
that, yeah.
But that's the thing. In 80s movie, there was always a strip club scene. Always,
was,
just
yeah.
randomly. It doesn't
And
matter
that's
what
it.
film it was. There was just a strip club scene
That's
there
it.
for something
Yeah.
to do. Yeah, but okay. So yeah, and that has brought back Sean's faith in cinema. Although speaking about your 70s movies, I remember once trying to watch the film Five Easy Pieces with
Oh right,
Jack
okay,
Nicholson.
with Jack Nicholson, yeah, and going
And
to see
not
Elvis
getting why everybody was saying this film was great.
Oh right, okay,
I
yeah.
did not. I've watched the film once. It was one of those things where BBC Two, you know, they had like the late night thing where it was usually introduced by Mark Cousins or someone like that, and they said, oh, this was blah, this was great. It was Miloš Forman probably who directed it, and this was blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, that's what, yeah. What?
Yeah, I can understand what you mean there. Yeah, because I mean, some of those films, I agree with you. They sort of were. I mean, Five Easy Pieces was all right. It's a watch, but it wasn't that good. You see, I mean, it's like Easy Rider. I think Easy Rider, that's an iconic film, and yet I just think it's okay. I don't think it's a masterpiece or anything like that.
Yeah.
I guess it was a film of the era.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah, see, Easy Rider, that's one that I've avoided. I've avoided Easy Rider because I feel like there's too much hype. I feel like there's too much hype over that film that it can only disappoint.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
So,
all right. Let us move on. We're going to move on to the final film that we're going to talk about on this second marathon in a... Well, actually, no. We only did 6 films last week. Oh, anyway. And this is... I was trying to toss it up between two things to talk about, and I was like, oh, which one should I go? Because I've been watching random stuff because my daughter has started paying attention to TV now, and so because of that, you can't watch... I don't have choice over what I watch anymore. I just don't have that choice over what I watch anymore. So I thought it was between two things I was going to let you guys. I was going to either talk about Call My Agent, which I've been watching, but the whole idea is that I want to watch all of Call My Agents and review all of Call My Agents in one go. So I decided, but by the way, Call My Agent, I love it. I think it's really, really good. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna switch, and instead of that, I'm going to talk to you about a film called Fearless. And this is Fearless, where the A in the Fearless is an @ symbol, like what you get in your emails. Ooh. So FE @ RLELS. Well, LESS, sorry. Which should tell you kind of what film we're going here. Sharon, it's animated. So it's animated, and it's one of those things where I have got into the habit of just, when I'm sitting down and I'm trying to sort of like, you know, get something to distract my daughter for a while, I go onto Netflix and I just look for animated movies, and I try and pick ones that I feel like I'll be able to stomach, because there's some of them that I'm like, no, not going there, no, not watching that. We're not going there. I know what that
feels like.
and there's some of them that I'm like, okay, if I'm going to fall asleep, I can put it on because it's not big. Like Animal Crackers was terrible. I only saw that halfway, like only saw about half the film because I was asleep for the rest of it. It's terrible. But this is a film called Fearless, and the whole idea behind it is that it kicks off and you have this kid who plays video games, and he's playing this video game, and he's controlling this character, and the character is called something like Captain Lightspear. So it's controlling Captain Lightspear. Lightspear is fighting against this thing, and it's like an online game. So there's a lot of people who are playing and going, oh, this guy, he's called Fearless. He's one of the best players of this game. He's about to get to the final level. Nobody else has ever got to the final level. And you get to the final level, and before the final level comes up, there's a message that comes up on screen saying, do you accept the consequences? And he's like, yeah, what? Yeah, I'll accept the consequences. And then he accepts the consequences. He says yes. And in the story of the game, what happens is Lightspear has 3 children, has three babies, quite frankly, who may or may not have powers. He puts them into a superpowered daycare. And then the bad guy, Dr. Arcanus, comes in and kidnaps the kids because he wants to steal the kids' powers for himself. But the kids manage to escape in a very sort of baby's day out kind of way. And that's where the thing comes up on the screen saying, do you accept the consequences? He says yes. And then what turns out is that there's this weird thing where by saying yes, he opens up a wormhole between the video game and his world. So a wormhole opens up, and then these 3 babies crash in his backyard. And so he ends up on this night having to babysit these 3 super powered babies. There's an element of it that's very The Incredibles, like, you know, when you have Jack attack, and then you have the babies trying to look up imagine if you had 3 Jacks, and like, you know, and there's all this sort of stuff going on, and it becomes this sort of adventure film where Lightspear's trying to get to Earth because he has to save his babies, and these 3 have to keep the babies. And there's an element of E.T. because there's There's the military who are like, oh no, we've got to get those things. There's this, but this film is totally tongue in cheek. It is totally. It knows what it is. It knows what it's aping. It knows that it's stupid, and it knows what it's making fun of. Like Gabriel Union, the brilliant actress Gabriel Union, she voices like the head of the military, and she just says stuff, and her dialogue, the things she says, is not really like she's making dialogue. It's like she's just talking to you about the kind of things that happen in these films. Like she's like, now I'm here, and now I'm really mad, and now I want to hand me a clipboard. I want to sign something. I want someone to hand me a clipboard every 2 minutes as she's walking. So like, you have that scene where the boss is walking along, and someone hands them a clipboard, and they sign, and they hand them the clipboard, and someone else hands them a sign, and she just keeps commenting on everything that she's doing in the film, because this is the kind of stuff that happens in these sort of films. Like even towards the end, there's a bit where everything dies down, and the one of the people in the military asks them, "Oh, would you like a blanket?" Imagine the scene. There's an ambulance there. The lights are flashing, but there's no sound. The lights are going, but the siren isn't going off. People are sat in the back of the ambulance, and then someone comes and hands them a blanket, and then the soldier comes and goes, "Oh, would you like a blanket?" And then the kid goes, "Oh no, thanks, we're fine." "Why'd you hand us a blanket?" And he's like, "I don't know. We always just give people blankets at these things." And it's that kind of film. So I put this on to sort of distract my daughter. Then after a while, I was like, you know what? Actually, I want to see where this goes. So I was surprised at how good it was, because it didn't have to be. And some of the voice actors, like they brought back a rapper called Jadakiss, and I have literally not heard about Jadakiss since the 90s. I don't know what's up with that guy. And I'm like, oh my God, Jadakiss, what's he doing here? And so I would give this a 3 out of 5. It is definitely kids fair. It is definitely kiddie fair. But if you have kids that you have to watch something that they can watch, and you can watch over their shoulder and be okay with them, I would totally recommend it. I was surprised at how good it was, because it's a Netflix original, and as we know, Shaun, Netflix originals do not hold much sway with us.
No.
Netflix originals do not hold much sway with us, and especially because it's a Netflix original kids animated cartoon. It's not going to be Pixar. It's not going to be top of the range, but this was one in which it looked like they actually put some effort into it, and they actually put some thought into it, and there's actually some wit to it, which is a really, really welcome surprise. So I would give it a 3 out of 5. I mean, I have to admit that there was a bit in my mind where I was offering, is it a 4? And I thought, nah, don't be silly. It's a Netflix animated movie for kids. It might be, it's only because of your expectations that you're thinking that it's a 3. It's a 3. It's a 3, and it's a good 3. So that is us done for the week, and now all that is left to do is to ask you two. I have been sitting down here with a spreadsheet, and I know the answer, but what's your intuition? Who has won this week, Netflix or cinema?
I think it's either it's got to be very, very close, and I'm just going to take a stab here and say, so you got that for? I'm going to say that cinema might have won it by something like 0.25 or something like that.
I think cinema has pipped it this week.
Okay, you think cinema has pipped it this week.
Yeah.
So, let's put it this way. If we added up all of the scores between these two, it came down to a 0.5 of a star. Get up to 0.5 of a star of who won, because both of these have had 1-4. So we had 1-4 for cinema, 1-4 for Netflix. Both of them had 2 films that were rated with 3, but one of them ended up with a 3.5 and the other one ended up with a 3. So you were both right, and yes, cinema won this week. Won this week, but by dint of a 0.5. I mean, it was a lot closer. What we can say is it's been a good week all round.
It's been a good week all round.
We didn't have anything lower than a 3. We didn't have anything lower than 3 because Sharon refused to kick that puppy. So, that is it. Okay, and I think right now we've all earned ourselves a drink. Yes. And I'll say that we should all go have that drink and see if there's going to be anything in the cinema next week. I'm looking forward to Don't Worry, Darling, when that film finally gets here, and we can talk about the film and not about the furore that's supporting it. I'm tired of hearing about Harry Styles. But until that time, it is a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me, and so next Thursday we'll have to leave pretty early because it's Jackie Brown 20th anniversary. So I don't know if you want to come and see that, Sharon, but that's on Thursday.
I have to give my apologies for next Thursday because I'm actually going on holiday tomorrow with my mum and
Oh, lovely. We'll have a
I'm
wonderful time.
taking her to Dorset for a week. So we are
Whereabouts in Dorset?
We're going to Thorncombe. We've got a cottage in Thorncombe, which is just
Lovely.
up from Bridport.
Yeah, Bridport. Lovely. Know it well.
Okay, okay.
My great grandparents were born in Bridport.
Okay, so Sharon, I would say just be careful in case the coach got double booked and there's some hunky guy who shows up
Yeah.
Well, unlike this rental villa, we've got 3 bedrooms in ours. So if it has an extra person, they've got their own room. It's not a problem.
All right, cool. I'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you later.
Enjoy the holiday.
All right, thank you. Take care then. Bye.
Bye.